The Galactic Council chamber was built to inspire fear. Its ceilings stretched higher than mountains. Its walls were carved from star-forged stone taken from dead suns. Every seat belonged to a species that had survived extinction, conquered rivals, or crushed entire civilizations into history. Power lived here. Arrogance ruled here. And today, the council was entertained. A massive hologram floated at the center of the chamber, showing a small yellow star system near the edge of known space. One planet was highlighted in soft blue. Earth. Is that really it? One counselor asked, his many eyes narrowing. What species is causing concern? Laughter rippled through the chamber. The hologram zoomed in. Human ships drifted in orbit, small, angular vessels with no glowing shields, no massive energy signatures, no signs of advanced technology. Compared to the war fleets of the great empires, they looked fragile, temporary, replaceable. Divided governments, another delegate said, scrolling through the data. Constant internal conflict. Short lifespans. Emotional decision-making. Primitive weapons, someone added. Nuclear fission? Projectile-based arms? Pathetic. The council had seen species like this before. Thousands of times. They always ended the same way. At the edge of the chamber, the representative of the Varkal Dominion stood silently. Unlike the others, he was not smiling. The humans are weak, the High Counselor declared. Their world lies in a valuable corridor. We will offer them one chance to submit. A Varkal general stepped forward. And if they refuse? The High Counselor's expression did not change. Then we remind them how the galaxy works. The vote passed in seconds. War was approved. Across the stars, the Varkal invasion fleet entered human-controlled space. Hundreds of warships, black and sharp, weapons glowing like hungry eyes. The assault was broadcast live to the galaxy. This was not just war, it was a lesson. Human patrol ships rushed to intercept. 6 ships. That was all. The council chamber filled with laughter again. They didn't even send a real fleet, someone mocked. The human ships formed a defensive line. Their movements were tight, precise. No panic, no retreat. The Varkal commander gave the order without hesitation. Fire. The void lit up. Energy beams tore through human hulls. Explosions bloomed like dying stars. One ship vanished instantly. Another broke apart, spinning silently into the dark. A third tried to shield the others and was erased in a flash of white light. The remaining human ships fought back. Their weapons struck true. One Varkal cruiser lost engines. Another took damage along its flank. But it didn't matter. Within minutes, the human fleet was gone. No survivors. The broadcast ended. Applause echoed through the council chamber. Predictable, the High Counselor said. Earth will surrender within a standard cycle. But as the chamber began to empty, the Varkal representative remained still. His gaze stayed locked on the fading image of Earth. Something was wrong. Days passed, then weeks. No surrender came. Instead, Earth went quiet. Human trade routes shut down. Communication relays went dark. Diplomatic channels returned nothing but silence. Perhaps they destroyed themselves, one council analyst suggested. Their kind does that often. Occupation fleets were sent to human colonies. They found empty cities, homes untouched, lights still powered, food left on tables as if people had simply stood up and walked away. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Millions of humans had vanished. The galaxy began to whisper. How do you evacuate entire worlds without anyone noticing? A junior counselor asked. No one answered. At Earth, Varkal warships entered orbit. The planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green continents, no visible defenses. The invasion commander smiled. Begin landing operations. Before the order could be completed, sensors flickered. Then I failed. Across the fleet, systems shut down one by one. Communications went silent. Weapons refused to charge. The commander opened a direct channel to the flagship. Report. No answer. Then, without warning, a single signal burst from Earth's surface. It was not a message, not a weapon. It was a code. Ancient, complex, and terrifyingly powerful. Hidden stations across the solar system came alive. Structures the Varkal scanners had dismissed as debris unfolded into massive shapes. Engines ignited without heat. Power readings spiked beyond known limits. Deep beneath Earth's crust, vault doors that had not opened in thousands of years were unlocked. Inside them slept machines built for one purpose. Not defense, vengeance. Far away, in the Galactic Council chamber, alarms began to scream. What is that signal? The High Counselor demanded. Analysts scrambled. Data flooded in from 100 systems at once. That code, one whispered. It isn't human. Another shook his head slowly. No, it is human. Just very old. Across the stars, long-forgotten beacons answered the call. Ships hidden inside nebulae, inside dead systems, inside the shadows of history began to move. The galaxy had assumed humanity was young. It had assumed humanity was weak. It had assumed humanity had no past worth fearing. Earth remained silent. But something vast had awakened. And it was coming. The galaxy had always feared noise. Explosions. War cries. Emergency broadcasts flooding every channel at once. Silence, however, was something else entirely. After the failed occupation of Earth, the Varkal Dominion issued no public statement. Their fleets did not advance. They did not retreat. They simply stopped. At first, the Galactic Council assumed it was a delay. Technical trouble. Reorganization. Then the reports began to arrive. Outer Varkal listening posts went offline without warning. Long-range scanners detected energy distortions along major hyperlanes. Brief flashes, then nothing. Patrol fleets failed to return from routine routes. No distress calls were recorded. No debris fields were found. Ships were vanishing as if the universe itself had swallowed them. In the council chamber, confidence gave way to unease. This is impossible, a counselor muttered, staring at the star map. Entire regions of space were dark, not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. The Varkal representative stood rigid, his claws clenched around the edge of his platform. His species had conquered 100 systems through fear alone. Fear worked because enemies could see what was coming. This enemy did not announce itself. We demand answers, the High Counselor said sharply. Where are your fleets? The Varkal representative spoke slowly. Carefully. We do not know. That single sentence hit harder than any declaration of war. Meanwhile, far from the Council's reach, a human evacuation convoy slipped through folded space. Thousands of civilian ships traveled in perfect silence, their engines cold, their signatures masked. Inside one transport, a human commander watched the stars bend and shift beyond the viewport. They're already looking for us, an officer said quietly. They won't find us, the commander replied. Not yet. The convoy vanished into a region of space officially listed as dead. It wasn't. Hidden within ancient asteroid clusters, human sanctuaries came alive. Docking bays opened. Shielded habitats powered up. Children who had never seen Earth stepped onto stations built centuries ago, designed for exactly this moment. Humanity had not fled in panic. Humanity had executed a plan. Across these hidden installations, the same words appeared on screens and walls. Phase 2 active. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, colossal structures rose from trenches untouched since before recorded human history. Their hulls were black, smooth, and covered in markings that no modern human language used anymore. These were not ships meant to inspire hope. They were built to inspire regret. Elsewhere, a Varkal task force finally encountered something. The fleet was traveling through a narrow hyperlane when space ahead of them distorted, just slightly. The commander ordered a halt, weapons charging. Too late. Something emerged from the distortion, already inside the firing range. It was not large, not compared to Varkal dreadnoughts. But it went wrong. Its engines made no visible exhaust. Its surface absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. And when it fired, there was no beam, no flash. One moment, the Varkal flagship existed. The next, it did not. The ships simply separated, cleanly, as if reality itself had decided the vessel no longer belonged together. The remaining Varkal ships tried to flee. None succeeded. Minutes later, the human vessel slipped back into folded space, leaving nothing behind. No debris, no witnesses, only absence. Word spread fast. Independent traders rerouted. Mercenary clans refused Varkal contracts. Border worlds once loyal to the Dominion began to quietly shut their gates. Fear returned to the galaxy, but this time, it was aimed inward. In the Council archives, emergency researchers dug deeper into forbidden records. Obscure references began to surface. Fragments of erased history. A name appeared again and again. The Soul Accord. It can't be, an archivist whispered. That war was a myth. Another analyst shook his head. No, it was erased. Deliberately. Records showed a conflict tens of thousands of years old. A war so destructive that entire star clusters were sterilized. A war that ended not with victory, but with disappearance. One species vanished from galactic affairs entirely. Humanity. They didn't lose, the archivist said slowly. They walked away. At the center of the galaxy, panic finally broke through protocol. The High Counselor ordered an emergency session. Humans are attacking without declaring war, one delegate accused. This is barbaric. They were attacked first, another replied. We all approved it. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Then a message arrived. Not to the council. To everyone. Every screen. Every relay. Every public channel across known space lit up with the same image. A single human figure stood in shadow. No insignia. No threats. Just tired eyes and a calm voice. This is not a declaration, the human said. This is a warning. The figure paused. You believed we were weak because we chose peace. You believed we were young because we erased our scars. The image shifted. Ancient battlefields flashed across the screen. Stars collapsing. Fleets burning. Entire civilizations wiped out. We learned long ago what unchecked power does to the galaxy. The human continued. So we left. We hid. We waited. The screen went black for a moment. Then one final sentence appeared. You should have let us sleep. The broadcast ended. Across Varkal space, uprisings began within hours. Subject worlds rebelled. Garrisons went silent. Dominion Command could no longer tell which systems were still loyal. On Earth, the last human warship was lifted from orbit. The planet powered down, its signature fading until even advanced sensors struggled to find it. Earth had become a ghost. In the darkness beyond known space, hundreds, then thousands, of human vessels gathered. No lights, no signals, just silent shapes waiting for orders. A human admiral stepped onto the command platform of the largest ship ever built by their kind. Phase 2 complete, an officer reported. The admiral nodded once. Begin Phase 3. Stars shifted as the fleet began to move. Not toward conquest, toward judgment. And for the first time in its long history, the galaxy understood something far too late. Humanity had not returned for revenge alone. Humanity had returned to end a cycle the galaxy refused to break. Fear spreads faster than war. It moved through trade lanes, through neutral systems, through worlds that had never heard the word human spoken aloud. Entire sectors began to change behavior overnight. Orders closed. Fleets recalled. Ancient defense platforms powered up for the first time in centuries. The galaxy had seen empires rise and fall before. It had never seen one unravel in silence. In Varkal-controlled space, command centers struggled to understand what they were fighting. Ships vanished without combat logs. Crews disappeared without distress calls. Entire systems went dark, not destroyed, simply emptied. The Dominion's High War Council convened in an emergency session. Massive armored figures crowded the chamber, their confidence cracked, their voices low. This is not warfare, one general growled. This is hunting. They do not challenge our fleets, another added. They isolate them, strip them away, one by one. A third slammed a clawed fist onto the table. Then find their homeworld and burn it. Silence followed. A junior analyst stepped forward, trembling. Supreme Command. Earth is gone. What do you mean, gone? The lead general demanded. Not destroyed, the analyst said quickly. Hidden. Its energy signature collapsed inward. We believe the planet entered a form of localized null state. Our sensors cannot lock onto it. Murmurs filled the chamber. A planet that could disappear was not primitive technology. It was God-level engineering. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was facing its own crisis. Their archives were failing them. Entire sections of recorded history were missing, not corrupted, not lost to time, but deliberately removed. And the deeper they searched, the more terrified they became. In a sealed chamber beneath the council hall, a group of emergency archivists uncovered something forbidden. A black record vault, sealed by a species that no longer existed. Inside were fragments of ancient testimony. Holographic echoes from a war so old most stars involved no longer burned. The recording activated. A shattered fleet drifted across the projection. Planets burned in the background. A voice spoke, not alien, but unmistakably human. We tried peace first. The archivist stood frozen. Another recording followed. Human soldiers, exhausted and wounded, standing beside alien allies long extinct. They pushed us until we had nothing left to lose. The images grew worse. Entire star systems collapsing. Weapons tearing holes in space itself. Civilizations erased not out of hatred, but necessity. A senior archivist whispered, "This was the Soul War." The name carried weight. The Soul War was a legend. A warning parents once told their children about a conflict so destructive that the galaxy nearly destroyed itself. And at the center of it, humans. They didn't win, another archivist said, scrolling through the data. They stopped. The final recording showed Earth, scarred, burning, but alive. A human leader spoke into the archive. "We will not rule through fear. We will not become what we fought. We will leave the galaxy until it learns." The message ended with a warning. If we return, it will mean the galaxy has failed again. The archivists looked at one another in horror. The warning had been ignored. Meanwhile, far from Council space, a Varkal dreadfleet prepared an ambush. Dozens of warships hid near a major hyperlane, weapons charged, crews ready. This time, they would not be surprised. Space rippled. A single human ship emerged. Small, silent, alone. The Varkal admiral smiled. "Fire everything." Nothing happened. Weapons failed to lock. Targeting systems screamed errors. The human ship moved closer, not accelerating, not maneuvering, simply appearing nearer with each passing second. A voice echoed through the Varkal flagship's command deck. "You were warned." The human vessel unfolded. Panels shifted. Geometry changed. Reality bent around it like water around a blade. The Varkal fleet fired blindly. The shots never reached their target. Instead, space folded back on itself. One by one, Varkal ships vanished, not destroyed, not damaged, removed from the battlefield entirely, displaced into a pocket of null space where nothing could survive. The human ship lingered for exactly 10 seconds after the last enemy vanished. Then it was gone. No message followed. The message had already been sent. Across neutral space, former Council-aligned worlds began broadcasting pleas, not to the Council, but to Earth. They apologized. They begged. They swore loyalty. None received a response. In hidden human command zones, leaders watched the galaxy fracture. "Should we answer them?" An officer asked. The human admiral shook her head. "Not yet." "Why?" "Because they need to understand this isn't about power," she said. "It's about consequences." Reports flooded in. Varkal subject species were revolting openly now. Garrisons were being overrun. Entire fleets defected or fled into deep space. Without human occupation, without human rule, the Dominion was collapsing under its own weight. In the council chamber, the High Counselor finally spoke the words no one wanted to say. "We misjudged humanity." No one laughed this time. A final alert cut through the chamber. Massive energy readings. Multiple locations. Outside known space. Hundreds of signatures. Then thousands. The projection zoomed out. What appeared was not an armada. It was a wall. Human ships of every size and shape formed a slow-moving front across entire sectors of space. Carriers, strike vessels, command corps, designs no modern species recognized. These were not reactionary forces. They were prepositioned. They had been waiting for centuries. A counselor whispered, "They planned this." The High Counselor corrected him softly. "No, they prepared for it." In the depths of the human fleet, a final command signal passed through every vessel. Weapons powered to standby. Defensive fields locked into place. Humanity was no longer hiding, but it still was not attacking. Yet, at the edge of Varkal space, the human admiral stared at the stars. "Begin containment," she said. "Full scale?" an officer asked. "Yes." "What about the council?" She paused. "They are not the target," she said. "They are the audience." Stars shifted as the human fleet advanced, not fast, not loud, but unstoppable. And for the first time since the Soul War, the galaxy felt it again. Not fear of destruction, fear of judgment. The galaxy waited, not with hope, not with confidence, with dread. Human fleets had formed a living border across space, cutting through major hyperlanes without firing a single shot. Entire regions were sealed off, not occupied, not invaded. simply contained. Trade froze. Communication slowed. Empires that once ruled through fear suddenly found themselves isolated and exposed. This was not conquest. It was control without domination. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic had replaced pride. Seats once filled with arrogance now held figures whispering behind shields, afraid to be seen speaking too loudly. They could have destroyed us by now, one counselor said. Why haven't they? No species with this level of power waits, another replied. Unless they want us to watch. That thought spread like poison. Across Varkal space, the Dominion's collapse accelerated. Subject worlds declared independence. Slave planets turned their weapons inward. Former allies shut their gates and broadcast neutrality. The Varkal Supreme Commander issued a final order. All remaining fleets were to regroup near Earth's last known position. They would strike the source. They would end the nightmare. What they found instead was emptiness. Where Earth once orbited its star, there was only silence. No gravity shadow. No radiation. No residual energy. The planet had not been destroyed. It had been removed. The Supreme Commander felt something he had never known before. Helplessness. Then, everything changed. Across every channel in the galaxy, alarms sounded at once. No warnings. No errors. Incoming transmission. Every screen, every public display, every military command terminal activated simultaneously. Even worlds outside Council space received it. The image was simple. A single human stood before a dark backdrop of stars. No armor. No insignia. No rank markers. Just a person. The galaxy held its breath. This is Earth, the human said calmly. The voice carried no anger. No pride. No fear. Only certainty. For centuries, we were silent. The human continued. We watched empires rise, repeat the same mistakes, and fall. We chose not to interfere. The image shifted. Brief flashes appeared. Human colonies burning, evacuation convoys fleeing, children loaded onto ships as alarms screamed. But you did not leave us alone. The voice hardened slightly. You attacked our borders. You killed our people. You mistook restraint for weakness. The screen split. On one side, recordings of the Varkal invasion. On the other hand, ancient footage from the Soul War. Entire fleets erased, stars collapsing under weapons no one alive remembered building. We are not young, the human said. We are not fragile. A pause. We are tired. That single word hit harder than any threat. Today, we end the illusion that power belongs only to those willing to abuse it. The background shifted again. Human fleets ignited. Across hundreds of systems, space bent as colossal vessels emerged from null space. Ships the size of continents. Command structures layered like cities. Weapons that did not glow or hum, but distorted reality around them. Council observers gasped. These aren't fleets, one whispered. They're moving fortresses. The human voice returned. We will not conquer the galaxy, they said. We will not rule it. A brief silence followed. But we will stop those who think they can. The transmission ended. Then the war truly began. At the edge of contained space, the Varkal Armada launched its final assault. Thousands of ships surged forward, weapons blazing, screaming their defiance into the void. Human fleets did not advance. They opened. Space itself unfolded as layered defense fields expanded outward. Varkal fire struck them and vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed, deleted. Human counterfire followed. There were no explosions. Entire Varkal formations simply ceased to exist, removed from reality in clean, controlled sections. No collateral damage. No civilian systems were harmed. Precision on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. Within minutes, the Varkal offensive collapsed. Their command ships vanished first, then their carriers, then their escorts. Survivors fled in every direction, only to find containment fields closing around them like a tightening fist. The galaxy watched live. Every world, every species. This was not vengeance fueled by rage. It was judgment carried out with restraint. In the council chamber, the High Counselor sank into his seat. We created this, he whispered. Elsewhere, on a hidden human command vessel, officers monitored the battlefield in silence. No civilian losses, one reported. No planetary damage, another added. The human admiral nodded. As planned. An officer hesitated. Admiral, The galaxy is asking for terms. She looked at the star map. So many systems, so many lives balanced on the edge of fear. Open a channel, she said. The galaxy waited again. This time, the human who appeared was older. Their hair was gray. Their eyes carried centuries of grief passed down through stories and memory. We are not here to punish the galaxy, the human said. We are here to end a cycle. Images appeared behind them. Charts showing repeating patterns of conquest, collapse, and rebirth spanning millions of years. You keep creating monsters, the human continued, then acting surprised when they consume you. A final image appeared. Earth, restored, alive, watching. We will dismantle empires built on suffering, the human said. We will protect worlds that cannot protect themselves. The human's gaze hardened. And then we will leave again. Gasps echoed across the stars. You don't want to rule? A council delegate asked, voice shaking. The human shook their head. No, they said simply. Because someone always tries to overthrow the ruler. A pause. And we don't want to come back a third time. The transmission ended. Across Varkal space, the last remaining command node went dark. The Dominion had fallen. Not to chaos, not to destruction, but to something far worse. A species that remembered its past and refused to repeat it. As human fleets held position, a new reality settled across the galaxy. Humanity was not an empire. Humanity was a boundary. And every species now understood one truth with absolute clarity. Cross it again, and Earth would not be merciful. The fall of the Varkal Dominion should have ended the war. Instead, it exposed the truth the galaxy had tried to ignore for ages. The Varkal were not unique. They were only the most recent. As human containment fleets held their positions, power vacuums tore open across dozens of sectors. Old rivalries reignited. Former client empires scrambled to seize territory. Pirate coalitions emerged from hiding, hoping to grab what the Dominion had lost before humanity decided to act again. The galaxy had lived too long under fear to understand what peace actually required. And now, everyone was watching Earth to see what it would do next. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, emergency beacons flashed without pause. Delegates argued openly. Accusations replaced procedure. The unity that once defined the Council shattered under pressure. They destroyed one empire. A counselor hissed. What stops them from destroying us next? Nothing, another replied. Except their restraint. That makes them more dangerous, not less. The words hung heavy in the chamber. Beyond council space, something worse began to form. In the deep fringe, far from trade lanes and ancient capitals, a coalition of warlords and surviving Dominion commanders gathered. They had lost fleets, territory, and pride, but not ambition. If humanity refused to rule, someone else would. They called themselves the Ascendant Compact. Their plan was simple. Force humanity's hand. Compact fleets struck at undefended border worlds, small, independent systems that had no protection except treaties humanity had not yet enforced. Cities burned. Refugee ships flooded the void. And for the first time since Earth spoke, human fleets moved. Not to attack the compact, to evacuate. Across dozens of systems, human vessels appeared above threatened planets. They did not fire on attackers unless civilians were in immediate danger. Instead, they created corridors, safe paths through space where evacuation ships could flee without interference. Human marines landed on burning worlds, pulling strangers from rubble, shielding alien children with their own bodies. The galaxy watched, confused. Why are they saving them? A council delegate asked. They aren't even human, another added. The answer came quietly from a veteran observer. Because they remember being abandoned. The Ascendant Compact misread this mercy as weakness. Their leaders believed humanity feared political backlash. That restraint meant hesitation. They were wrong. On a shattered mining world near the fringe, a compact fleet cornered a human evacuation convoy. Civilian ships, slow, unarmed, packed with refugees, hung helplessly between asteroids. Compact warships closed in. Their commander transmitted a single message. Leave this system, humans, or watch them die. The human escort ships did not respond. They repositioned. Human war doctrine changed at that moment. Across the stars, a signal passed through every human vessel. Protective engagement authorized. The human escort ships surged forward. For the first time, The galaxy saw humanity fight without restraint. Human weapons ignited, not with chaos, but precision. Compact ships were disabled in seconds. Engines shredded. Weapons neutralized. Command vessels isolated and surrounded. But one compact cruiser fired anyway. A single shot struck a civilian transport. The ship split apart. Thousands died in silence. Every human fleet, across every sector, felt it. The admiral overseeing the operation closed her eyes. "Authorize escalation," she said. "What level?" an officer asked. Her voice was steady, decisive. Human fleets across the galaxy changed their posture. Containment fields tightened. Strike groups deployed from deep cover. Long-dormant weapons systems came online, systems never used during the fall of the Dominion. This time, humanity would not wait. The Ascendant Compact's strongholds were mapped within minutes. Hidden bases, supply depots, command nexuses. Humanity struck everywhere at once. No warnings, no broadcasts, no speeches. Compact fleets vanished mid-jump. Fortresses folded inward as space collapsed around them. Leaders were captured alive, their ships locked in stasis before they could self-destruct. Within hours, the Compact ceased to exist. The galaxy trembled, not because of the destruction, but because of the speed. This wasn't a war, a council analyst whispered. It was an execution. And then came the moment no one expected. Humanity did not claim the territory. Instead, human fleets withdrew from liberated systems, leaving behind defensive platforms keyed to local governments. Aid ships followed. Engineers, medics. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders stared at human commanders in disbelief. "You saved us," one said. "What do you want in return?" The human commander shook his head. "Nothing," he replied. "Just don't make us come back for the wrong reason." That message spread faster than fear ever had. Worlds began declaring voluntary alignment, not under Earth's rule, but under Earth's protection. Mutual defense accords formed overnight. Old rival species signed treaties they had refused for centuries. For the first time in galactic history, safety did not come from dominance. It came from trust. Back in the council chamber, silence reigned. "They are reshaping the balance of power," the High Counselor said softly. "No," another replied. "They are removing it." A final alert flashed across the chamber. Massive energy spike. Origin, outside known space. The projection expanded. Something ancient was moving. Not a fleet. Not an empire. A relic from before recorded history. An automated war construct built to reset the galaxy when conflict reached critical levels. It had awakened. The system identified the new dominant force. Humanity. If activated fully, it would erase every advanced civilization, human included. An archivist whispered in horror. The galaxy's last failsafe. The High Counselor looked at the image, then at the human-aligned systems lighting the map. "They saved us from ourselves," he said. "And now the galaxy is about to punish them for it." Far away, deep within the human command nexus, alarms sounded for the first time since Earth spoke. An officer turned to the Admiral. "Admiral, the ancient construct is powering up." She stared at the projection, at a weapon older than fear itself. "Of course it is," she said quietly. Another officer swallowed. "If it fires, there will be no winners." The Admiral straightened. "Then we don't let it fire." The officer hesitated. "That means committing everything." She nodded once. "So be it." Human fleets across the galaxy began to turn, not toward empires, not toward rebels, but toward something far worse. Something that did not care about mercy. Something humanity had hoped would never wake again. And as the stars shifted under the movement of an entire civilization preparing to sacrifice itself, one truth became clear. Humanity was no longer fighting for revenge. Humanity was fighting for the galaxy. The ancient construct did not announce itself. It did not threaten. It did not speak. It simply woke up. Across the deep void beyond known space, gravity twisted in unnatural patterns. Stars dimmed, not from distance, but from interference. Long-range sensors across hundreds of civilizations began to fail at once, overwhelmed by readings that did not fit any known scale. At the center of it all, something vast unfolded. It was not a ship in the traditional sense. It had no clear front or back, no engines, no weapons ports. It looked like a broken ring made of layered segments, each larger than a moon, rotating slowly around a core of absolute darkness. This was the failsafe, built by a civilization so old its name had been erased by time itself. The construct had one purpose. When the galaxy reached a point where power threatened total collapse, it would reset everything. Not conquer, not judge, erase. Advanced civilizations, interstellar infrastructure, recorded history, gone. The galaxy had always believed the failsafe was a myth. Humanity knew better. Inside the human command nexus, alarms screamed across every deck. Tactical displays struggled to keep the construct in frame, constantly recalibrating as reality bent around it. That energy output, an officer whispered. It's rewriting local physics. Another shook their head slowly. If it completes activation, even our deepest sanctuaries won't survive. The human admiral stood silent, eyes fixed on the projection. She recognized the construct. Not from data, from stories. From warnings passed down in fragments after the Soul War, spoken only in rooms shielded from recorders. Humanity had encountered the failsafe once before. They had barely survived. Status, she said calmly. Activation sequence has begun, an analyst replied. Estimated completion, 18 hours. A pause. Once it finishes, it will target every civilization above a technological threshold, the analyst continued. Including us. The officer hesitated. Admiral, the galaxy is calling for guidance. She exhaled slowly. Open the channel. The broadcast reached everywhere. Worlds that had once laughed at humanity. Worlds humanity had just saved. Worlds that still feared them. The same human figure appeared, older now, visibly worn. There is no easy way to say this, the human began. So we won't pretend there is. Images of the failsafe appeared behind them, dwarfing entire star systems. This construct was built to end cycles like the one you created, the human continued. When empires grow unchecked, when power spreads faster than wisdom, silence followed. It does not negotiate. It does not distinguish between tyrants and protectors. The human looked directly into the camera. It will erase us all. Panic erupted across the stars. Can you stop it? A council delegate demanded. The human paused. Yes, they said. Hope surged. Then came the rest. But not without cost. The image shifted to human fleet formations moving into position around the construct. Compared to the failsafe, they looked insignificant. Fleets that had terrified empires now seemed small. To shut it down, the human said, we must overload its core. That requires energy on a scale no single species should ever use. Understanding dawned. The council chamber went deathly quiet. You mean, someone whispered. Yes, the human said softly. Humanity will burn itself out. Murmurs turned to cries. You can't ask that, one delegate shouted. You've already done enough. The human shook their head. We are not asking. The transmission ended. In human space, emergency orders spread across every hidden sanctuary, every fleet, every outpost. Final protocol authorized. Civilians were evacuated again, this time farther than ever before. Children were loaded onto ARC ships aimed at the deepest unknown. Scientists uploaded knowledge archives into self-contained probes. Humanity prepared for extinction. On the bridge of the largest human command vessel, officers stood in grim silence. We could retreat, one said quietly. Let the failsafe reset everything. Something would survive. Eventually, the admiral turned to him. Yes, she said. Something would. She gestured to the star map. Billions of lives represented by faint lights. But it wouldn't be us. Human fleets moved into position, forming concentric rings around the construct. Energy conduits linked ships together, creating a network far more powerful than any weapon previously used. The failsafe responded. Segments rotated faster. The dark core brightened, not with light, but with absence. Space screamed as physics strained under impossible forces. Human ships began to fail. One by one, vessels overloaded and went dark, their crews evacuating seconds before collapse. Entire squadrons burned themselves out, stabilizing the energy flow. Still, the network held. Inside the construct, ancient defense systems activated. Automated guardians, machines older than morality, emerged and attacked without hesitation. Human pilots fought knowing there would be no retreat, no rescue. This is for Earth, One pilot whispered as her ship vanished in a flash of collapsing space. "This is for everyone," another said as he rammed a Guardian directly into the construct's hull. The galaxy watched in horror and awe as humanity sacrificed itself piece by piece. On the command bridge, alarms screamed. "We're losing too many ships," an officer shouted. "The network won't hold." The admiral closed her eyes. "Divert remaining power to the core strike," she ordered. "That will destroy the command vessel." She opened her eyes again. "I know." The officer hesitated. "Admiral, history will remember." She cut him off gently. "History doesn't matter if no one survives to remember it." The final sequence began. Human fleets poured everything they had into the network. The energy spike was visible across half the galaxy, a blinding surge that made stars flicker. The failsafe's core destabilized. For the first time since it was built, the construct hesitated. Then it began to collapse. Segments tore themselves apart as the internal balance failed. The dark core imploded, folding inward until it ceased to exist. The shock wave raced outward, but it was contained, absorbed by the sacrificial network humanity had built. One final human ship remained at the center, the command vessel. Inside, the admiral watched the readings drop. "Core collapse confirmed," an officer said softly. "The failsafe is neutralized." Cheers did not come, because the ship was failing. Hull breaches spread. Power collapsed. Escape pods had already been launched. The admiral remained seated. As the bridge filled with emergency lights, she activated a final broadcast, short-range, unencrypted. "To whoever hears this," she said calmly, "take care of what we saved." The command vessel vanished in silence. Across the galaxy, the impossible happened. The failsafe was gone. The stars stabilized. Physics returned to normal. The reset never came. Worlds across known space erupted in stunned disbelief. Humanity had done what no empire ever would. It had chosen everyone over itself. Hours later, long-range sensors detected something unexpected. Human arc ships emerging from deep space. Human sanctuaries reactivating. Human survivors. Not many, but enough. In the council chamber, the High Counselor lowered his head. "They didn't just stop the cycle," he said. "They broke it." Far away, on a quiet human outpost, a child looked up at the stars and asked a simple question. "Did we win?" A tired adult smiled sadly. "No," they said. "We paid." And the galaxy, forever changed, would spend the rest of its history trying to be worthy of that price. The galaxy did not celebrate. There were no victory parades, no triumphal broadcasts, no monuments raised in the moment the ancient failsafe vanished. Instead, a heavy quiet settled across the stars, thicker than fear, heavier than grief. Because for the first time in galactic history, everyone understood the same truth at once. They were alive because someone else had been willing to die. In system after system, emergency sirens powered down. Fleets that had been braced for annihilation stood frozen in place. Commanders unsure what to do now that the end had passed them by. And everywhere, the same question echoed. Did humanity survive? For days, there was no answer. Human communication networks were shattered. Long-range beacons remained dark. The great wall of human fleets that once held space together was gone, reduced to scattered wreckage and silent debris fields. In the Galactic Council chamber, the seats reserved for humanity remained empty. No one dared suggest removing them. Search operations began, not out of obligation, but desperation. Council fleets, independent traders, even former enemies spread out across the void, scanning regions they had once avoided, looking for any sign. They found ruins first. Human ships burned hollow, their hulls twisted and torn by forces meant to end civilizations. Escape pods drifted empty. Command vessels lay split apart, their interiors frozen in the final moments of sacrifice. Veteran admirals stared at the wreckage in disbelief. They didn't retreat, one whispered. They didn't hesitate, another said. They stood in front of it. Then hope. A faint signal pulsed from deep space. Weak. Fragmented. Humans. Rescue fleets surged toward it. They found a cluster of arc ships emerging from folded space, battered but intact. Their hulls were scarred. Their engines are unstable. But they were alive. Human survivors. Not fleets. Not armadas. People. The first contact was clumsy and quiet. No speeches. No declarations. Just a tired human captain responding to 100 incoming hails. "We're here," she said simply. "That's all we can promise." The message spread faster than any fear had before. Humanity still exists, but it was diminished. Entire generations were gone. Cities, sanctuaries, and command nexuses erased. The old power humanity once held, its terrifying, unstoppable reach, had burned itself away with the failsafe. What remained was fragile, and the galaxy saw it. In the weeks that followed, something unprecedented happened. Worlds began to arrive, not with demands, with offerings. Convoys from species that had once dismissed humans as weak brought supplies. Engineers volunteered to help rebuild shattered human infrastructure. Medical teams crossed borders that had been sealed for centuries. Former enemies arrived last, hesitant and ashamed. They bowed. On a temporary human assembly station, little more than a patched-together ring of damaged modules, a delegation from the former Varkal Dominion requested entry. The human representatives considered the request in silence. "Let them in," one finally said. The Varkal delegates did not stand tall. They did not posture or threaten. They knelt. "We ruled through fear," their leader said, "and it destroyed us. You could have done the same. You chose otherwise." The human delegate studied them carefully. "We didn't choose mercy because it was easy," she replied. "We chose it because we remember what fear turns into." Across the galaxy, the Council struggled to redefine itself. Old laws written to protect empires made no sense anymore. Power blocks shattered. Military thresholds were rewritten. One by one, Council species dismantled weapons systems they had once flaunted. Not because humanity demanded it, because no one wanted to become the next reason humanity might have to rise again. A motion was introduced, quietly at first, then unanimously. The creation of a new role. The guardianship. Not rulers, not enforcers. Observers, protectors, and final arbiters, tasked with intervening only when extinction-level cycles threatened to repeat. The position was offered to humanity. The human response came days later. No. The refusal stunned the Council. A follow-up message arrived soon after. This time from a council of human survivors, civilians and officers alike. "We have already paid the price of guardianship," the message said. "We will not wear it as a crown." Confusion rippled through the galaxy. "Then what do you want?" a council delegate asked. The answer was simple. "Help us make sure no one ever needs to do what we did again." So the guardianship was rewritten, shared, distributed. No single species held the burden. No single empire held the power. Checks were built into every layer, designed with human input and scarred by human experience. It was messy, slow, difficult. It worked. Years passed. Humanity rebuilt, but differently this time. Smaller fleets, open borders, shared research. Human children grew up among other species, hearing stories not just of Earth, but of worlds that had stood beside it at the end. Yet even as trust grew, unease remained, because everyone remembered what humanity had been capable of, and what it had chosen not to be. On a quiet observation deck overlooking a rebuilt Earth, restored from its null state at great cost, a human historian stood beside an alien scholar. "Do you think they fear you?" the scholar asked. The human considered the question. "Yes," he said, "but not because of our weapons." "Then why?" "Because they know what it takes to stop something bigger than yourself," the human replied. "And they're afraid they won't do the same." The scholar nodded slowly. Far beyond the core worlds, long-range sensors detected faint anomalies, echoes left behind by the failsafe's destruction. Harmless, according to analysis. Remnants of a weapon that would never fire again. Still, humanity watched them closely. Not out of fear, out of responsibility. In the Galactic Council chamber, a new plaque was installed, not bearing a name, not honoring a victory. Just a sentence. "Power without mercy ends everything." Delegates passed it in silence every session. On Earth, memorial lights rose into the night sky each year. One for every human ship that never returned. Every life that had chosen the galaxy over itself. A child once asked a human elder why the stars were so important. The elder smiled sadly. "Because they remind us what we almost lost," she said, "and what we chose to save." The galaxy moved forward, not perfect, not peaceful, but awake. And somewhere, deep in the void, humanity remained exactly what it had become at the end of everything. Not conquerors, not kings. The ones who stayed behind to make sure the cycle never started again. Time passed. Not quietly, not gently, but it passed. The galaxy did what it always had after catastrophe. It moved forward, carrying scars it pretended were lessons. Trade routes reopened. New alliances formed. Old grudges faded into history books rewritten by survivors. Yet one thing never faded. Humanity. Not as an empire. Not as a threat. As a reference point. Every major decision in the rebuilt galaxy carried an unspoken question. What would make them return? On Earth, life had resumed in ways both familiar and changed. Cities rose again, smaller and spread wider, designed to never put all of humanity in one place ever again. Human children learned history early, not the glorious parts, but the warnings. They learned about the Soul War. They learned about the failsafe. They learned why power demanded responsibility. And they learned why humanity no longer stood at the center of anything. Human fleets existed, but they were limited by design. Defensive, transparent, integrated with multi-species command structures. No secret armadas. No hidden doomsday weapons. At least, none anyone could find. That uncertainty was enough. Years later, during a routine Galactic Council session, a minor alert interrupted proceedings. Not a crisis. Not a war. A discovery. An exploration vessel from a newly uplifted species had uncovered ruins at the edge of the galactic halo, structures older than the failsafe, buried beneath the remnants of collapsed stars. The ruins were not human, but they told a familiar story. Evidence of a civilization that had reached godlike power. Evidence of conquest. Evidence of a final, self-inflicted collapse. The council chamber grew quiet as the data was displayed. "We are not the first," a delegate whispered. A human representative, older now, slower, but sharp-eyed, nodded. "No," he said, "and we won't be the last." The room tensed. "Unless we remember," he added. The ruins became a shared research site, protected under the strongest laws the galaxy had ever written. Not guarded by fleets, but by agreement. Any species caught weaponizing the findings would face collective response. No one tested it, because humanity signed the treaty first. Beyond politics and law, something deeper had changed. Culture. Stories spread across the stars, told by parents to children, by officers to recruits, by leaders to themselves in quiet moments. Not tales of human conquest, but of human refusal. They spoke of a species that could have ruled and chose not to. Of a species that prepared for extinction so others would not have to. On worlds that had once worshipped strength, statues were raised, not of warriors, but of empty hands. On former war planets, schools taught a new phrase translated into thousands of languages. Strength is what you don't use. Not everyone accepted it. There were always those who believed the galaxy needed a ruler. That order required domination. That humanity's restraint was a mistake. One such faction emerged decades later. A technologically advanced coalition calling itself the Stellar Ascendancy. They believed humanity had weakened the galaxy by breaking the cycle. Their fleets grew quietly. Their rhetoric sharpened. And humanity noticed. Not with fear. With disappointment. A human observer met the Ascendancy's leader in neutral space. No fleets present. No weapons armed. "You don't have to do this," the human said. "We do," the Ascendancy leader replied. "The galaxy needs direction." The human nodded slowly. "So did every empire before you." The Ascendancy leader smiled. "And where are they now?" The human did not smile back. "Gone," he said, because they believed that question was a victory. The meeting ended without violence. The Ascendancy never attacked. Not because they were stopped, but because every world they approached refused to support them. No ports. No supplies. No allies. The galaxy had learned. Much later, centuries after the failsafe, after most who remembered it firsthand were gone, a new generation asked questions without fear. Were humans always like this? Alien students asked. Human teachers would pause. No, they would say, we became this. And that mattered. In the deepest human archives, sealed even from most of their own kind, a final protocol remained untouched. Not a weapon, a record, a message meant for a future that might be forgotten. It was simple. If ever the galaxy returned to the brink, if cycles of annihilation rose again, humanity would not hesitate. They would not warn. They would not negotiate. They would not repeat the past. But that record stayed sealed. Because for the first time, it wasn't needed. On the anniversary of the failsafe's destruction, the galaxy observed a moment of silence. Ships dimmed lights. Cities paused. Even stars seemed to burn softer. On Earth, a child stood beside a memorial listing names without ranks or titles. "Why are there so many?" the child asked. The parent knelt. "Because saving everyone costs more than ruling them," they said. The child thought for a moment. Was it worth it? The parents looked up at the stars, unchanged, endless, alive. "Yes," they said quietly. "Because you're here to ask that question." Far above, humanity watched the galaxy not as guardians, not as kings, but as witnesses, ready if needed, hoping never to be. And across the endless dark, one truth endured, spoken in no law, carved into no monument, but understood by every species that had survived that age. They thought humans were weak. They were wrong. Humanity was strong enough to stop, strong enough to sacrifice, strong enough to walk away from absolute power, and still stand when the universe needed someone to say, "This ends here."